The meeting, the select committee has elected Mr. Ip-kok-kim as the chairman and vice chairman, Mr. To. And we will make our recommendations to the president for appointment. Next is the Activation Select Committee required to be established under Rule 20(06) of Rules of Procedure pursuant to presentation of petition, paper CB2 1344/1213. Members members that in response to the request of members at the last Select House Committee, the Secretariat has prepared a paper on the arrangement, and I would like to ask whether the number of select committees established under ROP without being authorized to exercise powers under the ordinance, whether we should have a list.
Mr. Ronnie Tong, Chairman, we fully appreciate that additional select committees to be formed would add pressure to the Secretariat, but I do think that we should have flexibility in dealing with matters of concern to the public. If we rigidly stipulate a number at 1, then it may not be in line with our function. I think we should make an arrangement that if there are 2 select committees under the petition mechanism that are formed concurrently, then the latter one should be referred to the House Committee for discussion. If by majority support it is considered to be sufficient and urgent, then we can seek additional funding from the Electoral Commission that will remove the possibility of the Secretariat living in constant fear about the manpower constraint. I'm wondering whether this compromise solution would be acceptable. Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman, I think the Vice Chairman is very sensitive to our needs. I don't have an objection per se, but I'd like to ask if this does happen, then they will go back and have a look at the resources of the Secretariat. Would there be resources? I mean, you're not Monkey King. Pick a fur, and then you will produce so many more resources. And I think the Secretariat might say that notwithstanding the support of the House Committee, they will not have sufficient resources. What's going to happen if that's the case? Well, we had a meeting this morning. The Vice Chairman said that we don't have to take a decision today. As a matter of fact, if there are more than 1 select committee formed, we will come back here to have a look at, and in the meantime we can ask the Electoral Commission to have a look at the availability of resources. Chairman, all 3 of us are part of the Electoral Commission. Well, if we want to create posts, we can seek funding from the administration. Well, that would mean a delay of 2 years. Well, that's why we say that we get on with this first. What you're asking the Electoral Commission to do, to seek funding to increase the manpower. You know, and I know that to increase manpower, it would take some considerable time. You need to wait until the next budget, and if we don't get resources from there, we'll have to wait pretty longer. So I think we should proceed in tandem. If it happens during this period, subject to resources, we will get on with it. But without sufficient resources, we'll come back here and decide on the priority. And if resources can be identified, then we'll get on with the job. And if resources are tight, then and we don't see the need, then we just settle for one. But perhaps we can call upon the Deputy SG to respond. Chairman, from what I understand, if there is one select committee not under the authorization of PNP, now in July the Electoral Commission would discuss the resources from the chairman. If we do need to have this kind of manpower on a regular basis, then in this allocation exercise, we may need to secure the relevant manpower level to cater for the eventuality. Chairman, I think the Vice Chairman has got a point, but this is conditional upon the resources being available. If we agree with the proposal, then there should be manpower available. Right, so we are proceeding in tandem. I hope that the Deputy SG will get on with this. Agreeable, Mr. Ip Kwa Him? Chairman, thank you. I've read the proposal of the Secretariat. Now we are concerned about the availability of resources. I think at the same time we have to consider the availability of members. Now when it comes to panels or bills committees, we are shuffling back and forth between the meetings, and that is the reality that we have to grapple with. Now we have one select committee formed in this way, and if there is a consensus at the House Committee that another one is also just as important, then that's an exceptional situation. But I think generally there should be some rules. Now we have the ceiling of 8. It doesn't mean that we cannot have any more meeting, any committees formed beyond the number 8, subject to the nature of the meeting of the committee. So that there should be a consensus that in general we should have one. In exceptional circumstances, we can come back here for more discussion. Right, indeed. In the meantime, the Electoral Commission will try to identify additional resources for this to happen. Mr. Ronnie Tong, Chairman. We've had discussions on more than one occasion. We fully appreciate the difficulties facing the Secretariat. I don't think members would use the procedures to set up more select committees. I'm sure that there would be communications. If there are communications, there would be more of a chance of getting things done. All right, let's proceed like this. Next, request of Honourable Ma Fong Kwok to discuss his proposal of asking an urgent oral question under Rule 24.4 of the ROP at the Council meeting on June the 19th relating to allegations of hacking into computers in Hong Kong by U.S. government. Mr. Ma Fong Kwok, 2 minutes. I'm sure members are aware of the details. I see the urgency to raise this oral question because after the incident, we have heard newspaper reports that the hacking involved the CUHK and the students and so on. The CUHK is a massive data exchange center. A lot of data are exchanged at that particular center in Hong Kong. Now, since Mr. Edward Snowden exposed all these hacking activities, we understand that the U.S. officials or the institutions in the UK never denied this. Only some congressmen try to trace the responsibility for disclosing the secrets, but nobody ever denied that this has happened. So I get a feeling that there may be some truth to the expose. Now, it has been happening for a couple of years, and I think this is still continuing. I'm wondering whether this is continuing as we speak. And this has taken on some urgency because it involves the security of our internet system, the web system, and this would involve very, very extensive and widespread implications. I do see the urgency to put an oral question so that we would be in a position to understand how the administration is going to respond to this, or whether they have any specific measures to prevent any occurrence of this going forward. Now, in the newspapers, there is a mention of this person, this individual, being present in Hong Kong. We do have extradition agreement between Hong Kong and the U.S. I'd like to follow up on how we should take this forward. And I also hope that the President will allow a little bit more time for members to put questions. Mr. Ronnie Tong, Chairman, I'm sure we all remember that an urgent question may not necessarily justify an urgent question. Last year, Mr. Gary Chan attempted to put an urgent question regarding the casualties caused by a tree collapse. If you ask government policy, there is no urgency per se. Chairman, I would like to put an alternative suggestion. Perhaps your good self, under ROP 16.4, you might wish to move an adjournment debate. There are advantages because the threshold is a little bit lower. It doesn't have to be urgent. The government has to make a response. Furthermore, members would have the opportunity to be involved. Will be given ample time for an urgent question to be put. There is always a time limit, and we may not be able to cover as broadly as we can the issue, subject to your agreement and subject to the agreement of members. If we can shorten the notification period, then we can make this happen on Wednesday, and Chairman yourself may move an adjournment debate for every member to take part, and the administration has to respond to members' concerns. I think that would be a better course of action, in my opinion. All right, a couple of members. We have very limited time, 1 minute each. Mr. Chen Han-pan. Chairman, many members of the public expressed concerns about this, in particular, like Mr. Ma Fung-kwok said, this kind of surveillance may still be going on as we speak. Now, my email, for instance, when I open the inbox, there is a pop-up saying that there are some institutions that are hacking into your account. I'm not sure how the situation is like. In my inbox, I'm experiencing this problem. Now, for other members, they have similar problems with a Gmail account. Now, of course, we can say anything in our email account, but this is a matter of concern. I would agree with Mr. Ma Fung-kwok in his proposal. Ms. Claudia Mo, Chairman, I would be inclined to support an adjournment debate rather than an urgent question. I take issue with him regarding the urgency. I think that this is an urgent matter. Now, in the cyber world, every single minute counts. And I think, well, we can talk about this every single week. Beg your pardon, Chairman. It is alleged that the U.S. is hacking into the cyber world in Hong Kong. We need to have some action taken by administration. We have to put questions to the administration. Now, C.Y. Leung repeatedly refused to offer any comment on the Snowden issue. The government cannot be evasive like this. Mr. James To, Chairman, there is grave public interests involved. We need to follow up. As to how we follow this up, perhaps I'd like to suggest two possibilities. I have written to Mr. Ip Kwok Him as chairman of the security panel to suggest a meeting to be convened. Every member can take part, and administration will have to make a response. In my letter, I propose that Mr. Edward Snowden be invited Now, it might take time to get in touch with him, and we're not sure whether he would take us up on the offer. We need to talk to administration first, and there is an urgency to the matter. If it is agreed that it is appropriate to have a meeting at the security panel, I hope that Mr. Ip would consider that. Now, if Mr. Ip sees otherwise, then I can seek a special meeting to be held here.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Mr. Tong. If we can have an adjournment debate, then we'll have more time to express our views, and government officials will also be given more time to respond, if any. If it is just an oral question, then you really don't have a time even to press the button. I also want to inform the House that I'm going to file a question on the 26th of the month at the LegCo meeting. The best is to adjournment debate and also questions. We can have the adjournment debate first. If I may talk to Mr. Chan through the chair, if this is the first time you've noticed that a certain country is supporting a hacker hacking your email, then you should adopt a two-step approach. If you have this warning, you are most lucky. Mr. SIN Chung-kai, if the President is willing, then both can be done. The two are not mutually exclusive. Those who want to ask questions may want to ask something that is different from what they are going to speak at the adjournment debate, and there are matters of public concern, and the administration should address those concerns. I hope that the President will approve both. Ms. Starry Lee, that's a big issue. That involves public interest and is urgent. I respect Mr. Ma's proposal, and I think the two are not mutually exclusive. And we had examples in the past. We can ask questions, and then the administration can provide information. Then during the adjournment debate, we can make use of the materials provided by the administration. As public figures, we felt that our telephones had been hacked from time to time. Sometimes when we are talking on the line, suddenly the volume changed. I hope both can be supported. Mr. Wong Yuk-man. Mr. Chairman, I have no specific view. If you are able to invite him to come, and if he's willing to come, and if you can protect him, then we are willing to accept him. Now it seems that the pro-establishment is claiming that the U.S. is tapping into their telephones. Now this is just a junior spy, and how do you know? How can the government answer you? What can the government officials provide you with in terms of information, further information? You may claim that the National Security Bureau of the mainland is tapping into your phone, and now you think the CIA is tapping into your phone, and the U.S. is invented the Internet, and is really wishful thinking that they don't make use of this to hack into your computer or tap your information. I agree with Mr. To. If he's willing, then I'm happy to see him. Perhaps the Democratic Party can exercise its influence. It seems that you have good connections with the U.S., but you need to protect him. You need to keep him safe. Mr. Christopher Chung. Because of the good relation between Mr. James To and the United States, I'm concerned about the safety of this gentleman. and I really don't know whether we can bear the consequences if we can't save his life or protect him. As for inviting that gentleman to come, I think safety is a primary concern. Thank you. Ms. Emily Lau. Chairman, I agree that we follow the matter up in this council. And the Pan-Democrats recently, just now, had a meeting, and we hoped that the chairman will move an adjournment debate on Wednesday next week. And I've asked the Secretariat to prepare a background paper. And I thank Mr. Yip Kok Him for agreeing to that. And I hope the information paper can be provided before the meeting, the Wednesday meeting. The practice is that each member can be given 5 minutes, and we can have the oral question together with the German debate. Mr. Ronnie Tong, I just want to clarify the point raised by Ms. Claudia Mo. I just mentioned this. This is a matter of principle. In fact, it is jumping the queue. And if there is an incident and every member asks to jump the queue, then the system breaks down. This is the very important principle. I mentioned that Mr. Chung-kai can, upon the collapse of the tree, killing one person, Mr. Chung-kai can wanted to ask an oral question, an urgent oral question. Now, the matter itself is urgent, but the government policy related is not an urgent matter. So the question is whether we should allow that to jump the queue. So it's up to members to decide whether you allow Mr. Ma Fung Kok to jump the queue. Mr. Tony Chair. Now, Mr. Paul Chair, pardon. According to Mr. Ma's question, his concern is the internet safety in Hong Kong, or the safety of our network system in Hong Kong. The reply by our CE is really disappointing at the UN. No, not UN, but in the United States. In New York, not at the UN. Thank you for reminding me, or correcting me rather. We need to consider public interest and its importance. We can consider the oral question and the adjournment debate, or even the follow-up by the security panel. Well, we can do it by a multi-pronged approach, and we should follow the matter as early as possible. Ms. Ellen Leung. Thank you, Chairman. The CE's visit to the United States is really disappointing. He was unable to sign any contract, and when he was asked with regard to Mr. Snowden, he only said that he had no comment for 7 times. He should have taken the opportunity to say that Hong Kong has judicial independence under one country, two system, and the Hong Kong courts are able to deal with any extradition application in respect of Mr. Snowden. If the CE doesn't play his part, then I support following up the matter, whether it's a German debate or oral question. Members can ask questions, members can express their views, and let the administration reply. Mr. Kwok Him, with regard to Mr. James To's proposal on following the matter up at the security panel, I think we must have that gentleman present. Otherwise, it is not meaningful to follow the matter up. That's the angle which I'm considering. I just asked the Secretariat, and up till now I have not received Mr. James To's letter. Mr. James Yan. Concerning this troublesome issue, we can discuss that for a very long time. The Liberal Party supports the 2 proposals. Mr. Lam Tai Fai, sometimes I may be too loud, but I am really kind. Whether it is a proposal of Mr. I'm easy with regard to the proposal of Mr. James To and Mr. Ma. The CE says that he doesn't comment on individual cases. Now, if we, as the establishment, if we support the SARG governing Hong Kong according to the law, then should we support the government and don't ask special or individual questions? But as an easygoing person, I support the proposals made by members. The CE doesn't want to comment on the individual cases, but if we discuss a matter, would it cause him any embarrassment? Well, I allow the two members to speak for the second time, and then I'll give the floor. I'll have to draw a line there and then hand over the floor to, or hand over the venue to the FC. Yes, I propose to invite Mr. Snowden on the grounds of public interest. Now, this is an invitation, not summons. It is up to him to decide whether he comes or not. He can make his own decision. If he gives a reply or through whatever means, or maybe in the form of a letter, then we will consider his reply. Now, in Hong Kong, we have the police, we have the security wing. They deal with sensitive matters, and also believe that there are different security officers of different groups or institutions paying attention to the matter. If something happened to this gentleman, Hong Kong will be held responsible. So from the point of view of public interest, we should follow the matter up. I think it will be followed up by the panel on security chaired by Ms. Ip Kok Kim. They will make a decision. Now, the Pan Democrats had a meeting just now. We decided on two things. The Pan Democrats will write to the committee asking the committee or rather asking the panel. We'll write to the panel and ask the panel to speak on internet safety or network safety. So Mr. Ip shouldn't just say that the meeting will only be called if you get the gentleman. But we are concerned about network safety. Mr. Wong Kok-heng has pressed the button, but I've already drawn the line. I have not heard any objection from to Mr. Ma's emergency oral question, so I don't need to cast a vote. Members asked me to move an adjournment debate. I want to know whether you agree whether I will move an adjournment motion under Rule 16.4 of ROP to move an adjournment motion on network safety and ask the President to waive the notice requirement and let members to have enough time to speak on the issue, and that is to waive the 1.5 hour restriction. Is it agreeable to members? Mr. Paul Chair. Chairman, you mentioned network safety. I think the question shouldn't just be limited to network safety. Well, I have to make use of a neutral term, and you can speak whatever you like in respect of network safety. I will, my motion must not carry any direction. The matter is about how to deal with Mr. Snowden's stay in Hong Kong. It is far more than network safety. Well, if you the motion is on network safety, and you can speak whatever you like. I cannot move any motion in relation to a particular person. I can only adopt a neutral. I can only adopt neutral wording. If there is no objection, then I will speak to the President. Mr. Wong Kok-heng, nothing else? Okay, nothing under ALB.